All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're talking about an empire that was literally born from fire. One that changed the world, not just with its armies, but with its ideas, its roads, and a whole new way of looking at good and evil. This is the story of the Persian Empire.
You know, the cities, their names, the languages they spoke, even the stones on the streets, they all just faded away. But the fire stayed. It was a fire of memory, of history, and of sheer will. And that's really the perfect way to think about Persia, an empire that began and ended in flames, but whose legacy still burns bright today.
So, to really get Persia, you have to understand where it came from. I mean, it didn't just pop up out of nowhere, right? It rose from the dust of thousands of years of civilization in Mesopotamia. You had Sumer giving us the first cities, Babylon giving us the first written laws, and Assyria, well, they were the masters of brutal conquest. Persia was what came next. It was the culmination of all of it.
And that brings us to the big question for today. What is it that makes a civilization last? Is it just about having the biggest army, the strictest laws? Or is it something more? The Persians had a totally unique answer to that question, and it created a blueprint that people would be copying for centuries. So, let's go way beyond the stereotypes you might have for movies. Seriously, Persia wasn't just some horde of faceless warriors. This was a nation of incredible architects, brilliant administrators, and deep thinkers who built an empire that was designed from the ground up to work, to connect, and most importantly, to last. And at the absolute heart of this whole grand design, you have two legendary figures. And they weren't just kings, okay? They were the visionary and the organizer. One guy had the dream, and the other one built the machine to make it a reality. First up, you've got Cyrus the Great. This guy completely flipped the script on what it meant to be a conqueror. See, instead of the usual pillaging and destruction, he offered mercy. He offered respect. When he took Babylon, he didn't burn it. He actually freed the peoples who had been held captive there, including the Jews. They were so grateful, they literally called him the Messiah in their holy texts. Think about that. So if Cyrus was the visionary, the guy who gave the empire its soul, its why, then his successor, Darius the Great, was the master organizer who figured out the how. Darius is the one who took this huge, sprawling territory that Cyrus had conquered and turned it into a single, well-oiled machine, a true superstate.
And Darius's genius was all in the organization. He sliced the empire up into these manageable provinces called satrapies, each run by a governor. But here's the clever part. To make sure those governors didn't get any funny ideas, he sent out his own secret inspectors, get this, called the King's Eyes and Ears. How cool is that? They reported directly back to him. He also created one currency for everybody, standardized weights, and made one language, Aramaic, the official language of government. It was an absolutely revolutionary system for its time.
So, you've got this massive empire. How do you actually run it? Darius knew it wasn't just about having soldiers everywhere. You needed two key things: an incredibly fast way to get information from point A to point B, and a powerful idea to hold everyone together. You needed the road, and you needed the flame. Let's talk about the road first. And look, the royal road wasn't just a strip of pavement. It was the empire's central nervous system. You can think of it as the ancient world's first information superhighway. It connected the heart of Persia to its most distant corners. And the scale of this thing, it's just staggering. The road stretched for 2,700 kilometers. That's an absolutely mind-boggling feat of engineering. And it had stations all along the way with fresh horses, so royal messengers never had to stop. And the result? It was just incredible. A message that would normally take 3 months to deliver could now get from one end of the empire to the other in just 7 days. 1 week. Information was literally moving faster than an army could march. The Greek historian Herodotus was so blown away he wrote that neither snow, nor rain, nor heat, nor gloom of night stays these couriers from the swift completion of their appointed rounds. Sound familiar? It should. It was the inspiration for the unofficial motto of the U.S. Postal Service. But a road is just a road without a unifying idea. The flame that guided the Persian Empire was a religion called Zoroastrianism. Now, this was one of the world's first great monotheistic faiths, and its central idea was both simple and totally profound. The entire universe is one giant battlefield between the forces of good and evil. So at the very heart of this religion was this epic cosmic struggle. On one side, you have Ahura Mazda, the good guy, the force of truth and light. And on the other, Angramaynew, the spirit of lies and darkness. And all of humanity is caught right in the middle. And here's the game changer. For really the first time, a major religion said that it was up to each and every individual to pick a side. Your thoughts, your words, your actions, they all mattered in this cosmic war.
But even empires built on these strongest foundations can start to crack. And for Persia, those cracks really began to show under Darius's son, Xerxes. See, he started to believe he wasn't just a king serving a divine plan. He started to see himself as a god. When Xerxes launched his massive invasion of Greece, his defeat at the Battle of Salamis was so much more than just a military loss. For an empire that had seemed unstoppable, like this divine force of nature, it was a massive psychological shock. It was the first time their god king was proven to be all too human. The first time a god, in their eyes, appeared to lose. So the empire slowly weakened over the next 100 years or so, until a new challenger showed up on the scene, Alexander the Great. Now, what's fascinating is that Alexander actually admired the Persian system. He respected it so much he adopted their court customs, their whole administrative structure. Which brings us to one of the greatest mysteries in all of history. Why in the world did he order Persepolis, the ceremonial capital, the very soul of the empire, to be burned to the ground? To this day, historians still argue about it. Was it just a drunken mistake? Some ancient writers say it happened during a wild party that got completely out of control. Or was it cold, calculated revenge for Xerxes burning Athens 150 years before? Or maybe it was the ultimate political statement, a giant, fiery announcement that the old Persian dynasty was over and his new era had begun. We'll probably never know for sure. So, the palace of Persepolis was gone, turned to nothing but ash and stone. The empire was finished. What was left? After the fire went out, what actually survived?
And this might be the most powerful part of Persia's entire legacy. Its ideas didn't die. They echoed down through history. I mean, look at this. The core ideas of Zoroastrianism, this cosmic fight between good and evil, a final day of judgment, the concepts of heaven and hell, even angels and demons, all of these became absolutely fundamental building blocks for Judaism, for Christianity, and for Islam.
So in the end, Persia's true legacy, it wasn't its golden palaces or its stone cities, it was its revolutionary ideas. It was a blueprint for how to run a diverse, multinational state. It was the concept of high-speed communication. And it was a moral worldview that put the power of choice right into human hands. Which leaves us with one last thing to think about. Alexander's fire, it destroyed a city, sure, but it couldn't touch the concepts that the city stood for. An army can conquer a people, a city can be turned to ash, but it's much, much harder, maybe even impossible, to kill an idea.